What's up guys, Neema here, KMINYC and defenseforyou.com. Today I want to go over a question that another student of mine gave to me. And this question is regarding assessing an opponent's limitations. And the student asks, what might a quickly noticeable limitation be and how would you adapt to be able to defend yourself? Now, this question can be a little bit tough to answer or give advice, mostly because about 99% of the advice that I'm going to be giving you is predicated on you having some type of awareness ahead of time. In a previous video, I go over the best technique for self-defense, which is awareness, being alert. That means being able to assess the room, who's there, who's not, where are the exits, etc. That's what I mean with regards to awareness. If you're actually being attacked in the heat of the confrontation or mugging, it's very, very difficult to be able to assess limitations that your attacker could have because you're so adrenalized, you're not really thinking, you're just trying to survive. You may not even have time to be able to think of those things. So that being said, I am going to give you some actionable advice that is predicated on you having some type of awareness and some things to look out for. Keep in mind that most of this advice are going to be generalizations, but nevertheless, they should help you out should you need to use them. One thing that I'm going to point out is that most people are right-handed, so they're going to favor their right side. Generally speaking, you can assess whether someone is left or right-handed either by the way they hold something in their hand or if maybe they're hiding that particular side or if it's cocked back. Also, if they lean towards that side, generally speaking, they're loading up to be able to use that for the possible attack. So that generally will give away which side is their strong side. Something else that could be also very useful is a person's gait or how they walk can tell you a lot about some possible physical limitations. This could come in the form of a limp, or if they maybe favor standing on one leg for far too long as they are walking. If you notice an outside swing of their leg as opposed to it going into a straight line. Also, if it looks like they can't really bend their leg too much, this could also be another sign of possible weakness. Another thing that you can use also is if a person is just standing still and if they lean on one leg or if they put a lot of weight on one leg, either side, that can also give you a tell as far as which side is their stronger side. Another thing also is if the person is using, as they're walking, if they're using a lot of swing or side-to-side motion as they're walking, this could indicate a lower body injury or weakness. So a lot of the restrictions that come from the lower body, if you notice this, are restrictions of the knees and the hips. There could be some ankle injury as well, depending on how they're walking, but a lot of times it comes from hips, lower back, and knee. Body stature can also give you some clues. Are they very tall and skinny, or do they have a very, very stocky build? If they're very, very top heavy, or maybe even tall and skinny, you can actually use that to your advantage. There could be some weakness in the knees because if they're top heavy, a lot of that weight is having to bear on their knees and their ankles. You could use this to your advantage. That could be a possible weakness. You can also use their body stature to figure out what body part to target. The knees are a very vulnerable area, especially like I said, if they're top heavy, if they're tall and skinny, there's not a lot of meat on those bones. That could also be a source of limitation. So what happens if you get attacked or mugged and you have to deal with that? So at that point, you really just have to attack back. If you maybe notice that the predator or mugger is constantly striking you with the same arm, you know that that's going to be their strong side. If they're constantly attacking you with the right side, that's their strong side, left side, etc. This could come in the form of a punch or a strike. It could be holding a weapon, whether it's a knife, gun, stick-like object like a bat, what have you. If you're dealing with multiple attackers, that becomes a little bit of a different story. At that point, you just have to attack whoever's closest to you, attack back, use them as a shield, get everyone in a straight line, whether it's maybe you're dealing with 2 attackers, 3 or 4, try and get them in a straight line, get out of there as quickly as you possibly can. Last point I want to make about limitations, physical limitations, there are certain body parts that you can either strike or manipulate, and no matter how strong the other person is, it will have an effect and can potentially work to your advantage. There are three big ones that I want to mention. They are strikes to the groin, not grabbing, but strikes to the groin, eyes, and also manipulating the head or the neck. Those are the big three. There are some other ancillary body parts that can be effective, such as the ear, ripping the ear, bending fingers, back, kicking the shin or foot, nose. Those are pretty good, but the thing to consider is I always think of the worst case scenario in a self-defense situation is that the person attacking you most likely is going to be on some type of drug or inebriated to the point where they're inoculated to pain, so they may not feel pain whatsoever. With regards to those specific body parts, there's a physiological survival mechanism that just isn't hardwired in us, where if one of those three body parts are attacked or manipulated in some way, shape, or form, the body automatically reacts to it no matter what. Like, strike to the groin, chances are they're going to move their body back. If you go for the eyes, they're going to try and close their eyes and try and get you away. If you manipulate the head or the neck, unless they want to break their neck, if you somehow move it in some way, shape, or form kind of hard, they're going to follow as well. One thing to note is with regards to the wrist, some people may say, oh, go for the wrist. You know, in theory that sounds good, but in order to actually cavalier and to manipulate the wrist requires a lot of precision technique, and it also requires you to grab someone's wrist in order to manipulate. Chances are the person's moving very, very quickly, or if they're very, very strong, good luck trying to grab their wrist and trying to manipulate it to the point where you can try and actually get them to stop doing what they're doing, okay? So that is why I mentioned those big three. Some people may disagree with that, but go ahead and try it and see what I'm referring to. One thing that I want to point out as a side note is if someone is constantly coming after you, even after you've attacked them multiple times and you've struck them, and they keep coming back for more, chances are they're hopped up on something and they don't feel pain. Your failsafe at that point is going to be do some form of rear naked choke. So at this point, basically they're inoculated to pain, they can't feel pain, so you have to prevent blood from going to the brain. So the reason why I mentioned the choke is because if you do perform a rear naked choke, it reduces the amount of blood that goes to the brain, oxygen that goes to the brain. Automatically the body is going to shut down to protect itself, and that's going to be your fail-safe to be able to get out of that situation. The nice thing is with that, there's no harm done to the person, there's no harm done to you, they just pass out. A few minutes later they do eventually wake up. Rule of thumb is hold it for at least 10 seconds to ensure that they're out cold. No more than 60 seconds because you can do some permanent brain damage. You can also potentially kill them. So 10 to 30 seconds, you're generally good in that vicinity. It could vary from person to person, but 10 seconds I would say max. So that being said, what is a potential exercise that you can use to be able to assess a person's physical limitations? Well, there's a little game that you can play with yourself, and I like to do this pretty often. And you can do this by observe. Next time you go out, whether it's in a social gathering or you're just going about your business, doing an errand, observe the walking patterns of the people around you, whether they're coming towards you or away from you. Notice how they walk, if they favor one side, any irregularities that you may see with regards to how they're walking, any little things that you may be able to pick up about how they walk. Also, you can notice their body posture with regards to their walk or lack thereof. Are they slouched over? Are their shoulders back? How they present themselves. That's also a good cue to game to be able to play, to be able to assess that. Also, if they're holding something, whether it's a bag or something in their hand, or they have a bag on their shoulder, you could see which side is it on, and you could determine, okay, that is most likely their stronger side. Another thing also that you could do, it may or may not be useful, but something that I've noticed is the side, if someone's wearing a watch, which side is it on, or bracelet even. Chances are, I think the saying is, if you write with a particular hand, the watch is on the opposite hand. So if you're right-handed, a lot of the times they wear a watch on their left wrist. I don't know how true that is because I generally am left-handed, so I usually wear my watch or bracelets on the left hand, so it varies, but I think that's pretty much how that works. If you favor a particular side, you wear the watch on the opposite wrist. So those are some things that you can do, some games, some exercises that you can play in order to be able to determine which person's strong side there is, and also maybe determine their potential physical limitation. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you found that video helpful. If you liked this video, please like, subscribe, and share. Also, if you have any other questions that you want to ask me, feel free to leave a comment down below. If you have any questions on training, whether it's you want to participate in one of our classes or if you want to do some one-on-one private training, I'll leave my information in the description down below. Feel free to reach out to me. Until then, guys, train hard, train smart, get at it, and as always, be safe out there.